to be sure. Is it okay? I hope it's recording.
Yes.
All right, great. So let me just repeat because I've just started recording for those who will just join us. So I think we had learned Git previously, but then now we want to learn it in details. You know, last time we were doing it in a rush because we had a lot of content to cover. But then today we are going to dive deeper into Git, and you are going to learn more and more on Git. And for those who are just new to Git, Git is just a version control tool that can help you to track changes to your code. And I used an example before that, for example, let's say you had a system that was working fine, and then perhaps you just did a very small mistake, and then the entire thing crashed. So you can always revert back to the other commit which was working fine before the changes was made. So you can see it can save you a lot of time. And then at the same time, for example, let's say your hard disk crashes, you can always have a backup in the cloud because GitHub also provides the cloud storage for your project. And then also it can help you like to collaborate. Like at the moment we have graduated, and you won't be working alone. For example, you're invited to work for a company, you won't be working a lot alone. We have, like in data science, it's very big, or maybe in the software engineering field, like in the data science, we have the surveyors, we have the analysts, data engineers, and many other things. So you have a team. And Git is a very powerful tool that developers do use, or anyone who interacts with code. They usually use it now to track changes to your code. And I want to begin by first showing you how you can install, because there are some setup that we need to configure so that it can work well with our system. So I'm going to begin by, because I already had, let me just show you the proper way on how you can install Git on your system. And then we'll just begin it straight away, because sometimes you might install it in a way that it won't work well. Git bash. There's another one called bash. Let me see. Bash. Bash. Okay. I think, yeah. So I've just installed. So to install Git, you can just go to Git download to your browser, and then search for Git download for your operating system. I'm using Windows, so I'm going to use this Windows. And if you have, I think, Windows between version 10 onwards, or I think 8 onwards, it supports 64 bits. But if it supports 32 bits, just use it. But I think most Windows operating supports 64 bits. But remember, you can install it for your operating system. Some people are using Linux, others are using Mac OS. Use your respective operating system. So the installation is just straightforward for any open source software that we usually install. It's just a similar approach. So it's going to install it, download it first of all, and then on the installation is going to be very, very key, because there are some things that you will need to follow for it to work well. Let me switch net, because I think this one is very slow, very slow. Allow me to just switch net to sell. I think it's much more. Hello, am I still in the meeting? Nimeswitchnet, sijui kama nimedrop. Am I there? Mnasikia bado?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Let me just switch to this one. I think this one is much faster. I can see inaniambia seconds. But there's a few things nataka nitaelezea on the installation so that it can work well on your system. Now it has opened a new window. I'm not sure if I'm sharing my entire screen. Mnaona ile hii window kadogo ka nini ka Git ka Git installation. Is it sharing the entire screen? Mnaona nini? This nikienda open another window bado mnaona or you are seeing the browser alone.
Ni hiyo window setup kama ni gani?
Ile ya nini? Oh yeah, setup. Unaweza kuona la setup. Kale kama
check.
open ya kidogo.
Sure.
Aka kanini. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you. All right, thank you. So now this is a very, very important part on the installation because you need to configure it well so that it can work well on your system. So first of all, the agreements are just, there's no harm here. You can just install, there's no thing, but if you find time, you can just read. And then create a folder for the project, for the Git. And then for me, I had initially. Then the other thing that you need to make sure that like some things that you need to make sure you've checked. Ensure that you've checked, in fact, everything, including this one, Git a large file. These are large file support, especially because sometimes you might want to upload large files. Make sure that this one is checked, and then also ensure everything also here is checked. And let me see other thing. Add yeah, so this one you can see this one new. Add a Git bash profile to Windows terminal so that you can access it easily. Make sure that it is checked, and then also this one can be optional in case you want to check daily updates. But sometimes for me, I don't like working with the latest stuff. Like anything which is latest, sometimes it might not be checked well, or maybe what do we call it, like hawajaininii vizuri and they have not tested it well, so it might not work well. But if you choose, you can just click on it so that it can update it, so that you can always use the latest version of Git. So the key thing here on this part, make sure that you have checked this checkbox, add a Git bash profile to Windows terminal, and then also ensure that this Git large file support is also checked. This one you can select this just a desktop icon, and then now go to the next. This is the directory where it should be. Let it be Git. And then, so here you can just go to the next. And then, so this part is very, very important. Make sure that you are using the first option here because, when you create a Git repository, in most cases, you want like the repository on your GitHub to be main. So you can't create a default branch as main. When you use this other option, it means that you can you can make it a main or maybe another branch, a custom branch name. So I think it's a good idea to use the default. This one is master, but then now you will have the main branch later. And make sure that by default you are working with a sub branch. Don't use the main branch. So there are key things that I'll also explain later about that. So use this one so that you can use the master. When you just initialize an empty Git repository, then it's going to automatically create the master branch. And then this one, just check it and ensure by there you're using this option so that you can integrate this Git. There's a tool called Git bash when you install this Git. So when you install Git, it will come with a Git bash. So when you check this, you only selected this one, then it's going to be allowed to be integrated on the Visual Studio Code or any other third-party software. So make sure that this one is checked so that you can as well access the Git bash on the VS Code, because in most cases we'll be using the Visual Studio Code. for our staff. And then click on the next. And then this one, just go from here, you can just proceed. There's nothing serious there. Just use the default options. Then also use the default options. But then at your free time, you can explore those other options. But let's just at the moment use these default options. Zenye nimeelezea hiyo ndio imekuwa the key parts. But then these ones you can just continue, and then it's going to install it. So with this setup, or maybe these procedures that we followed, we are able to access now this Git system-wide. Like if you search it anywhere with any other command line tool, you'll be able to see still Git without any issues. And then at the same time, you can still access the Git bash on the Visual Studio Code. Sometimes you don't want to open a lot of terminals. You want to use the embedded terminals to work with your Git. Sometimes it helps a lot. Then you can choose to restart or not. Let me not restart because I'm going to be locked out here. And then you can finish. So now once you've finished, so the first thing that I want to do is first of all, check if you have Git in your system. So because we've installed it system-wide, you can use a tool like, what do you call it? A command prompt to search if you have Git. So you can just type git -- version. First of all, the command line, I think we had talked about this one. The command line tool is just, sometimes let's say you want to create a folder somewhere, you usually just click on this file, create a new folder, maybe right click, create a file or a delete, just use the GUI. But then you can perform the same operation via the command. So we usually use the command line tool to write those the command line. Like I will use the CLI now to write those commands that could have as well done the same operation that you will do with the graphical user interface. So here we're just using it now to check if we have Python, what we have Git in our system. So you can see now we're able to see if we have Git in our system because we checked those options so that we can allow Git to be in the environment variable so that it can be accessed in the system wide. So this is a command prompt. Then we also have another one on Windows. Actually, we have another command line tool called PowerShell. So when you just type git -- version, you see you're able to sit still. But then you can see some commands. Like for example, let's say we wanted to let's see. Let me open command prompt. So like you can see, for example, when I want to create here a new file, let me cd first of all, cd to desktop. The cd is a command to change directory. Desk top. Like to change to navigate to a different directory, use the cd command. So at the moment, it's going to take me to the desktop. And then to create a directory here, for example, let's say we want to create what is this series? Okay, let's create a directory with this command make directory. And then if you want to create a multi-word directory, make sure that you always wrap it in a string. For example, if it's a multi-word folder name or a directory, I'm calling the folders is directory. Like in most cases, they usually call it directories, but I refer to folders. So for example, let's say portfolio. Okay, let me just say portfolio series. Not sure if I've series, yeah, series. So this one is going to create here a folder. You can see now you could use this the graphical user interface to create those things, but you can still use this command line to create these things. But then the thing that I'm trying to illustrate here is that, for example, if I want to list all the directory here, you can see on the Windows when you use ls, it's going to give you an error that is not recognized, or maybe sometimes you want to clear the history. You can see it doesn't work. So for example, if I want to clear, or before clear, let me try to list all the directories in this desktop. You can see you'll have to use this dir, or maybe to clear the history here, use cls. So you can see these commands are not, for example, when you go to another terminal, it's not universal. Now there's another terminal that Git will come with called Git bash. So that terminal is very, very powerful because the commands that you write there can be applied on different operating systems. For example, if you are on Windows, Mac, Linux, it won't change. So like, for example, let me open a terminal. I think by default on your end, if you haven't installed Git and Git bash, it will come by default. But then because for me, I think I had already installed earlier, is going to, like I can access it here. So let's try again git dash dash version. Okay, this git dash dash version. Version, I can get the version here. But then now when I type here CLS, it's not going to work. Remember on the command prompt it worked. So here you write clear. You write clear. And then if I want to list directory, for example, let's first of all cd to desktop and top. CD desktop. Then if I want to list all the directories there, you can just type ls, not dir. So you can see this ls command, it applies both on Windows, Mac OS, or Linux, or any other operating system. So this is the advantages to why we recommend to work with the Git bash, because the commands you write there will not change irrespective of the operating system. So that was just by the way. Now, back to Git. So I've just created here a folder called portfolio. You can just go anywhere and then just click on create a folder. I've just called it a portfolio series. And then here, you can just CD, but then because for me, I just want to use it a shortcut, you can just open the directory here, the same, this current directory here, portfolio series. Another way you could say CD desktop portfolio. Okay, by the way, let me just do that. You are in the root of your project here. So if you want to cd to this directory here without like writing a lot of cd commands, you can just say cd and then just type a desktop, and then a backslash, and then a portfolio series. Portfolio series. Then this one is going to do all like it's going to CD me to this directory at once instead of CDing to desktop and then portfolio series. So if I want to CD back, you just say CD, then back like that is going to CD you one step backward. Or if I want to CD to the root, you can just say CD, then dash dash, not dash, actually period, backslash, then another 2. So this one is going to take you 2 steps backward. So if I'm 3 steps backwards, you're going to do that. So it's going to take you at the root like this C drive itself. So let me just again, so that's how you can CD, but because I'm here, I want to use just a shortcut. Just want to open the command prompt here, and then I want to type here code. When you type code, it's going to open the Visual Studio Code. But if you want to open Visual Studio Code at the current directory, you're going to add in the period at the end. So when you add in the period and then you hit end, it's going to open Visual Studio Code. My assumption is that you have VS Code. So if you do not have, just go to the browser and then search for VS Code download. So this one is not even complicated. The installation process is just straightforward, just like any other open source software, just free. And then to download is just straightforward. So once you do that, then the first thing that I always do when I open my VS Code is just confirm that I have enabled the autosave feature. Sometimes you want, like, for example, when you just write a command, it saves, because sometimes you might write a code, then you think that you've saved, then perhaps your system crashes, or not crashing basically, but sometimes you can close Visual Studio Code by mistake. So those commands will not be saved. So the first thing that I usually want to make sure is, let me create here a new file just to demonstrate. Let me create a file called index.html. So for those who are wondering about the HTML is just a markup language that is used to describe the structures of pages. web pages, mostly web pages. For example, this is a heading, this is a link, this is a table, this is an icon, and so forth. So I just want to create here simple snippets for HTML just to illustrate something. So you can see when I go to the file and then I enable this check that autosave, then let's say we want to modify here, hello world. So you can see I'll have to manually go to the file, then I click on the save, or I use the shortcut Control plus S. And then sometimes you can forget, like for me, I always forget most of the time to save. So what you do, you go to the file, then I scroll down, then I enable the autosave feature. So you can see now when I type here, for example, H whatever, and then let's say I love coding, I don't have to save it because it's already saved. And then another thing that you want to make sure that you have, or like just to confirm, because when we installed VS Code, not VS Code, the Git, we enable that option that to allow Git to be accessed by other third-party software. And one of the third-party software is Visual Studio Code. So if you want to see that you have the Git bash integrated here, you can just click on the ellipse here at the top, then I open the terminal, and the shortcut is Control-Shift backtick. So when you open it, it's going to list all the command line tools available. So when you click on the drop down, you can see by default it usually uses PowerShell. PowerShell is a default command prompt, or like a command line tool for Windows. Then you can see now we have Git bash here, among other command line tools. So I want us to use Git bash because we demonstrated earlier, like we learned earlier, that is a universal command line tool. Like the commands that you write there, it can work on a different operating system. So this is the tool that I'm having. Now, another thing that we want to make sure that you have is a tool called Git Lens. Not it's just a plugin, an extension called Git Lens. So when you click on this extension icon here, when you have on it, it's going to display extension. Just click on it and then search for something called Git Lens. Git Lens. So Git Lens is a very powerful tool that it can help you track codes, like to see the status of the code in real time. To see the status of the code in real time. So make sure that you install this extension called Git Lens. Git Lens. So once you have everything in place, then you have Git to confirm that you have Git in your system. So the first command that you want to do before anything is to view, first of all, the available commands on Git by typing git help. So git help is a quick command that you can use to identify most basic commands on Git. So git help is going to list for you some of the basic commands available on Git, like a git clone, git init, and some brief description about those commands and so forth. But because we are learning here, so we don't need this one. So first of all, is there a question up to that because now we want to dive into the commands itself. Any question up to that? Are you still there? Bado mko? When I'm in other screen, I can't
Yes,
tell if. Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, so now that we are set, we configured everything is up and running. So now we want to write now the git commands. And before you write any git commands, you need to first of all initialize an empty git repository. You can see at the moment we are calling this folder a directory, or maybe just a folder, but we need to make it a repository. So to make it a repository, you are going to write here git init, git init. When you type git init, it's going to initialize an empty repository on this current folder. So it will no longer call a folder, though it's a folder, but then you can call it a git repository because you will have git init, a git inside it. I'm saying git init because, yeah, so when you write on it, then you can see You can see now the status has changed. I think when I have on it, can someone read what is there? When I have on this, can someone read something there at the end of that path? Can someone able to see what is there?
Just leave that thing.
Yes.
Contract.
Yes, untracked.
Untracked.
So we're able to see that feature because of the git length. This git length, it can help you like see the status of the code in real time before typing the git status or something like that. So it's going to like help you see the status of the code. In fact, we also have other tools that you can use without even writing the command, like a command, but I want to show you the hard way so that it can be much easier, like much beneficial for you. So now we have just initialized an empty Git repository. When you go to your project, you will see that you have this folder called git.git. It's just a hidden folder. I think for me, I've enabled these hidden files. That's why it's visible. But I've checked, when you check it, you can see it is visible here. So it is visible. Not visible actually, by default it's hidden unless you have enabled this feature. So this is just to tell that you have enabled the Git repository on this folder. So now this folder has the Git, and then you can see now we are using the Git length. It's going to tell us that this file it is untracked. So at the moment when I type Git status, Git status, you can see that we have untracked file. So you can see the extension is giving me the status of the code without even typing the Git status. So we usually use the Git status to see the status of the file, because we said that Git is a version control tool which can help you track changes, track changes on your code. So when you change a code, you need to see the status. You need to see the status, and you could use Git status, but then you can see now the extension can help you understand the changes there. And then you can always clear. Now, this clear command is not deleting the history. It's just like clearing the workspace so that you can have a proper space to write. But if you use the arrow keys on your keyboard, you can retrieve the previous written commands. So that's just a command to like a clear history to have an empty workspace, but when you scroll up, you will see it. So we use git init now to initialize an empty Git repository. Now, to track the file, you can see at the moment when you have it, says untracked. And if you want to track the file, you are going to use a command called git add. Git add, okay, git add, then the file name. For example, index.html, because I have this file called index.html. When I type git add index.html, then the file is going to be tracked. So when I have, can someone else confirm the status there? Can someone confirm when I have a?
Index added.
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, I'm doing that for that engagement. It's an obvious thing, but I'm doing that for that engagement. Yeah, so there it is now added. So you can see now the extension is giving me the status without even typing the git status. Git status, okay, status. So now when I write the git status, now telling me that this file is available for commit. No commit yet, but you can see this file is it is being tracked. It is being tracked. So first of all, let me clear. So the file is being tracked, and if you want to untrack to untrack a file, basically in a few I'm going to talk about the git ignore. But first of all, if you want to untrack a file, you type git remove. I don't know if remove work, but rm, and then git remove rm. Then I'm not sure. Let me confirm first of all. Catch then index.html. First of all, I'm not sure about the command. Let me see first. Okay. HTML. Yeah, so use that command git not remove. I don't know if remove works, but type rm for remove cached index. So this one you're going to untrack this file. And the reason I'm going to talk about the Git ignore, sometimes it's very useful because, for example, sometimes you want to push your project on GitHub for portfolio stuff, but then it contains, like, your project contains some secret files or maybe keys. You don't want to expose it to the public, especially if you make it a public. It's going to be an open source, so anybody can fork that repository, or I can just see anything that you have. So there are some sensitive files you don't want to add there. So you can create here a file in the root or wherever called .git ignore. .git ignore, just like that. Git ignore. Hey, git ignore. .git ignore, just like that. It doesn't have anything. It's just .git ignore, like that. So when I tap create that file, then let me create a new file. For example, let's call it secret .py or any other file, secret.py. And then, so now when I type when I add this file here, if I want to ignore this file, remember the git ignore is at the root, it's at the same level with the index and the secret key. So if I want to not track this secret.py, I can add it now to the git ignore. Just type secret, okay, secret.py, just as an example. So when I type secret.py, then now when I do git, okay, when I do git add, but then initially I was doing the git add, and then at the file name. But then sometimes you have a lot of files. You have a lot of files, and I want to do like I want to track all the files at the same time. You can just add in there at the period at the end. Remember this dot, in most cases, it stands for the current directory. It means that you want to track all the files at this folder, root folder, or maybe the root directory there when you type there the period. So in this case, it's going to track all the files. So you can see now git ignore is, remember the git ignore file itself is going to be tracked. But then the file that you include in the git ignore is the one that it's not going to be tracked. So now you can see when I do the git status, but if you can just see here, we don't have the AU, or sometimes you talk about there's another status called modify or something like that. Yeah, you can see this file is not tracked. Just to confirm. You can see it. Is it? Let me zoom in kidogo. Yeah, this file is not tracked. So you can confirm that on your end. The file is not tracked. Like okay. Actually, you can't tell because, okay, let's do git status. Git status. So when I do git status, you can see I only have git ignore the file itself and the index.html, but it's not including the secret.py because it is in the git ignore. It is in the git ignore. Or sometimes let's say you have a folder, especially if you have like a large file. Let's say you have a folder that contains the media or maybe the statics. Let me create a folder, for example, call it static, or any folder that has large files. Then in the folder, for example, you have main dot, for example, that. So we have a folder here, and then we want to ignore this folder. So with the folder, you just specify the folder name, like for example, static. Static. Remember, you can say static or static, and then the forward slash at the end is going to mean the same thing. So when I type this one, then I do git add, then I'll do git status. I'm not going to see that folder. I'm not going to, like, it's going to ignore everything within that folder. But sometimes you want to ignore some specific files in the folder. For example, in the static, we also have main. For example, you have you have a video file or any other file. You have a file like a media file. You don't want to track that file. So you can just type in the git ignore. So static, and then, for example, main dot mp4. So when you type main.mp4, Then when you do git add, when you do git add all, I can see it's going to ignore only the main file because you have specified that file. You have only specified that file. So this is how you can add like a files to the Git. Sometimes it's very, very useful, especially if you have the secret, especially if you have the APIs. For example, if you are a developer, you have those Google Auth APIs or maybe Google Maps or any other credential, you don't want to expose it. So you add it to the Git, that file, so that you can only push the code that don't have those credentials. And if you're using, because we also learned the variables in Python, make sure that, and also packages, we talked about the packages. Make sure that if, for example, you have to use that credentials in your file, make sure that you create a file for your .env. By that is a file called .env where you can create the environment variables. And then you can just use those variables instead of exporting directly your credentials. Or you can just create a package, a module that has the secret files. Then you just you just import it as a variable so that when you push it on GitHub, you don't expose your credentials. Yeah, so that's about the git ignore. So once you've tracked the files, once you have tracked the files by doing the git add, then so then the next thing now is to commit, to save it. First of all, before I proceed, are we together? Any question? Ama nienda mbio sana. Actually, I'm going too fast. Nataka to, if we can manage to finish today. Git. Am I too fast? Mnaelewa kweli?
Malonja hatuelewi bwana.
Ati?
Endelea tu.
Amwelewi? I'm
Uko
too
sawa?
fast. Oh, okay. In case you have a question, you can just ask. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's about the Git ignore. In a summary, you first of all begin by first initializing a Git repository. If you just have a folder for your project, make sure you initialize that repository by typing git init. Git init is a command to initialize an empty Git repository on your project, on your folder. And then now, once you initialize an empty Git repository, but there is a good idea, before you do any operation, make sure that you add the sensitive files in the Git ignore. I think that should be the first thing that you need to do. You add the sensitive, because sometimes you might find yourself you've pushed the code on, like on the GitHub, without knowing that there's a specific file you forgot to add into the Git ignore. So make sure that you list, first of all, the files that you want to have it in the Git ignore after you've initialized the empty Git repository. Then once you've listed all the files that you want to ignore, especially the we have other sensitive files that no, we have files, sometimes not even sensitive, but we have the large files. You don't want to push large files on GitHub, you just want to push the code. You can ignore the files or maybe the folder that has the media and the photos or something like that. You can add it to the Git ignore so that it can ignore those files. And then once you do that, then you can do the git add. Git add is a command now to track the files, and then once you track the files, and then you need to save it to save the status. Like at the moment, if you write here this code, let's say you had a system that is working. Maybe this program imekuwa successful in a work. Make sure that you always save, and make sure that you do timely commits, like you do regular commits, such that because you can be writing the code imekuwa inafanya tu poa, but then the next 1 minute unaandika kitu yenye itakucost. But then when you do commits kila saa before you go any far, you can easily revert to that state. So git commit is just a command to save the files, like to save the changes, and you save it by typing git the commit, then then add the message. Make sure that it's a descriptive message in case you want to revert to that state. You can know the status, especially if you are collaborating with other people. People will want to know what that commit was. So for example, I So let me just say, for example, my first commit, hebu tu dakika moja hapa. Yeah, my first commit. And then this is just to save the files once you've added. I mean, remember, anytime you modify a file, make sure that you first of all do git add before you commit. Otherwise, it will tell you that like no changes has been made. So now when you do this way, then you can see now the files have been tracked. When you do the git status now, it will tell you like nothing nothing to commit, like everything is saved. But as soon as I modify it a bit, for example, let's say, good good. You can see because I'm using the git lens, it's it's telling me automatically here and hello. You notice my internet had dropped again. Are you able to hear me now? Hello?
Yes.
Hello, hello. Okay.
All right, okay. Thank you. All right, thank you so much for the confirmation. Yeah, the first thing that you need to always do, nilisahau, is to always configure Git. Wow. But let me just do it. Let me kwanza nimalize hii alafu I'll go to that. You can see now it is now displaying my this name tag, then the email address. So the first thing that I always want to do, though not a must, compulsory, make sure that you always do the configuration, because sometimes when you want to deploy on a platform like AWS, you want to push the code, it will by default use, for example, your username at github.com. So, and perhaps you are sure you don't have those corporate mails like that kind of an email. So make sure that you always configure your email. But I'm coming to that in a few. So to illustrate now these commits, let's say you want to revert to this commit, the first commit, you can use this hash. When you create a commit, it's going to create a unique identifier ID for that commit. So you're going to copy that hash and then just type git checkout. Git checkout. You can also use this command to check out on branches. So we'll talk about branches in a few. So you just type git checkout. then that hash. So when you type, just notice something here. But then you can see because I'm using the git lens, it's providing this information like in real time. In real time. This is very, very wonderful. I like that extension. So now when I do git checkout, you can see this code is going to disappear. When I type, you can see that code has disappeared. So basically that's how you can revert to the previous committed code. So that's how you do it. And then you make sure you do git add. Not adding, actually you save. You save by doing the git commit commit, and then commit reverted, for example, reverted to the first commit. Perhaps unaweza kuongezea ukasema I had written something which wasn't working or something like that. So then you, okay, sorry. First of all, do get the git add. Git add, and then let's see. Sorry. Oh, all right. So it is already committed, like it's already saved. So you don't need to do. Remember, the first commit is already saved. So that's why when I try to do nini, it's already. But if I add in a new file or a new change, for example, let's modify it a bit. Love coding, just like that. And then because it's modified, I can do now the git add. Remember, you can only add the files and also commit to the changes which wasn't there. So you can see now I am able to track it. So now if you want to go now to the branch, the exact branch that you have created was there initially, you can just say git checkout. I'm going to talk about the branches in a few. Git checkout and then a master, so that you can talk or you can get yourself from that commit. Clear. So now I'm back to the present, the updated status. So first of all, there was something that I was to talk about called the Git configuration. Sometimes you want to personalize the information or maybe the author. You saw that author information. So I think before you do anything, after you've just initialized an empty Git repository, the first thing that you always want to do is to configure the Git. To set up the emails and the username. So you can also do that by typing git config, okay, git config, then -- global or g -- global, then user. For example, if you want to add in the name, you can say user.name. And then, for example, if it's name tag, it can be name tag. Now, when you write it, you are going to configure that username here. So when you type now user.name without that extension, that username, just like that, it's going to give you the name. And then for email, you just say git config -- global space user dot email. Email, then for example, my email, like that. Then when you again write without that email, it's going to list for you. Sometimes you just want to confirm. Then you can see we have that email there. So this is the first command that you always want to do before anything. First of all, before I proceed, is there a question up to that?
No, I have a question.
Yes.
I think when you are breaking, I got a bit lost.
Yes.
What did you say after? Okay, we've added, then we've committed. Then you've said if we commit, then you go back to your file and make changes. What then do you do?
When you go to the file and make changes. Okay, let me. So sometimes, let's say you were writing a code, and then you mistakenly write something that wasn't working well, and you are unsure on how you can configure everything or maybe reset to the previous state. That's why we always recommend that you do regular commits such that you can easily, for example, something if it's working, make sure that you do a commit so that you can always go back to that state. Like for example, let's say we want to commit this one. Remember, before you commit, you need to add the files. If you're using the Git lens, it will display, for example, if it's added, modified or something like that. So you can see if it doesn't display anything, it means that it's saved. But then let's try to modify. Git is good for what? For anyone. So we have just modified this file. So you do first of all the git add. Remember, anytime you modify, do the git add. Git add is just a short command, but I'm lazy to type. That I'm going to that nini. So let me just type here, for example, modified index HTML, modified index file. So it's going to commit this file. Then let's say you wanted to revert to the previous state, commit which was working fine. Perhaps assuming that you had an error, you have an error, and you don't want to struggle identifying the errors. You want to just go to the version that was working fine. So you first of all need to know the commits that you have by typing git commit. Not git commit, git log. Git log is going to display all the commits available. You can see this is the first commit. This one I said I have modified index HTML. This one I have modified index. So that's why we said that it's very useful, important to write descriptive messages for your commit so that you can know the kind of changes that was made there. So now let's assume that we want to go back to the first commit here. So when you commit any change, like a Git is going to generate a random hash or maybe a random key identifier for that that commit. So we usually use that thing, that hash, to revert to that state, like to the that version. For example, let's say we want to go to this one, to this commit, the first commit. You are going to use the command called checkout. But then let's do git first of all help. I think it's there. So when you do the git help, let me see if it has git checkout. Let's check out. I think it should be there. Okay, don't worry. But okay, clear. So you just say git checkout. Git checkout, then you specify now that hash because I had already saved in the clipboard. So I can just type that hash there. I can just paste the hash there. Then it's going to take me back to the first commit or maybe the version that was working fine. The version that was working fine. So you can notice the changes here. So when I just click enter, you can see that a line is removed. You can notice that Lauren. Amana yo. Hello, Lauren, are you there? Or has anyone noticed the change for my file?
Yes.
Yes. So now I have just reverted back to the or I have just restored the first commit like the ile part nilikuwa nimesave when it was working fine, assuming that the latest changes ilikuwa na mashida. So I've just restored the initial commit which was working fine. So basically that's how you do it. And now if I want to go to because for me maybe let's say you want to just go back to the latest state which was there, you can just say git checkout, and I'll go back to the branch master, itakurudisha where you were. So that's how you can change you can navigate to other commits by doing the git checkout, then the specified commit. Also, the same checkout can work on the branches. We are going to talk about the branches just now. But before you proceed, sijui kama Lorena ako certified, umeelewa? Is
Yes,
Lauren?
umeelewa.
Okay.
It's clear.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, so basically that's about the commits. And I want to talk about now the branches. Branches is a very, very significant thing. Let's say you have a branch that is running on a server, because soon we are going to talk more about the DevOps. Remember, saya tuna pressure, Lex. We talk about the DevOps, and let me show you how I have implemented that one. Let's say I have this system. Let me just show you, because this is the website I call the Launchpad, or it's just a client project. So kona nini some nini hapo. But I make sure that I don't expose nini as a client. So I have this project, and I've implemented the DevOps here, such that nikipush to in the main branch is going to automatically populate on the project. So let me see, for example, I have this project here kwa nini. This is the front end, and I'll hire. Let's see first of all something I'll hire. I just want to demonstrate something here. I'll hire just an asset rental system that I've just created. I want to get something just to demonstrate, but as the launch. So msiseme ati Nehemiah hawezi nifanyia project and expose my things bado ikienda live ama nini. This not yet nini bado tuja launch. So I have this nini, nataka tu ku modify something here so that you can notice now the significance on the branches. So let me just give me a second. Ni open this project here. New window, and then new window, new folder. Desktop, asset rental system, railway. So, okay. Let me CD to frontend, CD frontend. Like I want to tell you, okay. Okay, nifanyaje? Let me see. Okay. Sijui mbona nini nakaa hivyo. Oh, all right. Sijui mbona kitu inanikala hivi vibaya. Let me just open a new one. Bash. Yeah, inafaa ikuwa hivi. So CD frontend. So I want to just modify that nini file. But then we shall also learn about the nini, the DevOps. We talk about how you can containerize nini your projects na vitu kama hizo as we go on. So just want to modify something so that you can see now the significance on these branches. Like it can cost you for like a big deal, especially if you're working on the main branch. Let's say just it is just let me see. I want to get something navigation. Nataka to modify. Where is navbar here? So I want to modify this thing hapa juu. And this nini, for example, ikwe just asset or a popular. Just want to modify. I remember bado ijaanza ku run the system. I'm still developing. So for example, is this the nini nina run currently? Okay, let me just do it quickly kwa nini. Let's see first of all. Let's see. Explore. First of all, let me do git. Give me just a second. I just want to demonstrate something. Git pull. Yeah, so I have this popular asset in pale juu. Popular asset. I want to modify equal. For example, just popular. Just popular like that. Then let me do git add. Git add. And then git commit. Modified navbar. Modified navbar. Then let me push. Don't worry about these commands. Niko naelezea tu. I just want to first of all demonstrate something. So now, when I do the git push, because I've implemented now the nini, so now you can see now when I go to the railway, it's going to automatically, you can see, when I just push, then it's going to update in the system. But then because nimeintegrate nini, aita nini, for example, it may crash. Let's say I've made the changes, alafu, the system may crash. This one itaendelea kurun first. Ile yenye ilikuwa na work itaendelea kurun. Alafu ile imecrash itakuwa ignored. You can see I have other commits hapa. You can always revert back to it. But sometimes you might have a system in any feature, for example. So you can see it's going to like cost you a harm because when you just push on the main branch, it's going to automatically populate like a update here. And when you give it some time to update, you will see that it's going to change here to popular. But as we wait for it to do that, let me now demonstrate now back to our project. Let me first of all, So, so now that's the significance of working with the branches. So you don't need to like be working on the main branch because you realize that you can make a change or maybe just do any change, then it's going to like affect everything that was working. For example, if you've integrated Git on your project, you can see it's going to cost you a big deal because it'll crash everything. So you don't want to work on that branch. That's why we have something called Git branches. So at the moment, this is our master branch, our main branch. So we want to create another branch that we can work on it so that it may not affect the one that is working it is live. So we can work on the sub branch, and then once it works well, then now we can merge it to the main branch and push it for deployment. So you can just do to create a branch, just say git. First of all, to list all the branches you have, just type git branch. Git branch, okay, branch. Branch like that. You can see the current branch is just this master is my main branch. You can see it has asterisk at the start to show that it is a master branch. So if I want to create a new branch, I can just say git branch, and then the branch name. For example, test or a main. Okay, actually main sometimes in master, it can mean that something that is main. When you use something and you have master and then you also have main, it almost mean the same thing. But for example, let's say you have a team of developers, kuna mwenye anashughulikia navigation, kuna mwenye anashughulikia. Okay, let me focus on data science. Let's say you have a team that is working on the data cleaning, kuna mwenye akona model ana work on the model creation, mwingine mambo na model deployment and stuff like that. So for example, let me in the context of a developer, let me assume because I mostly write software. So let me just write, for example, front end. Okay, or let me just use my name, Nehemiah, just to make it simple, or a name tag. So I'm creating a branch here called a name tag just for demonstration. In fact, there's nothing serious here, just for demonstration. So to create a branch, just say git branch, then a branch name. And then now when you do the git branch, it's going to list all the branches you have. You can see now I have, okay, I don't know why naandika ile branch ya Kiluya. Amalia, sorry guys. So imeni affect paka kwa spellings. So git branch like that. So you can see now I have that name tag. If you create a new branch, for example, test, a test. So I can now have that test. You just say git branch, then the branch name. Git branch, and then the branch name. So if I want to switch back to another branch, you use git checkout. Remember that checkout we did earlier for switching to previous commit? The same applies here. Git checkout, and then the branch name. Because we know the branch, for example, it was main. I'm sure. Don't know if I have main branch. Okay, test. I believe test. I have it. Yeah, so you can see now I have switched to test. But then there's another command. Let me try first of all before I explain. Let me see, just say, I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. So switch and checkout, it works the same. So you can use the checkout and the switch. You can either checkout or switch to branches, but a checkout, I think it's most commonly used. Git checkout. So to switch to other branches, git checkout, then, for example, a test. Git checkout test, then it's going to switch me back to test. So now I'm at the test and I want to make changes here. For example, let me just say heading 2. And in this heading 2, I want to say, for example, I hate repeating myself in code myself. So, and then once you make any change, make sure that you always add first of all to track the file, git add and add all. Remember, I'm using the add all because I've already specified the files that I want to ignore, that I don't want to track. So I can just use the add all because the git ignore is handling the one that I want to exclude. So when I just type or add all, it's going to add every file, excluding the one that in the git ignore. Then do git git commit, and then, for example, modified. Make sure that I use descriptive messages in case you want to revert to that code. You will know that commit was doing what. So modified, modified spelling. Modified nikiandikanga polepole wanga nashinda na spelling, but ukiandika tu haraka haraka inawanga sawa. Modified inaandikwa hivyo, si ndio? Modified index. Sinaandika hivyo, or any name. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I've just done that.
Yes.
So you can see now. Okay, thank you so much. So let me clear. Yeah, so you can see now I'm at the test. Nimeandika hizo pause hapa kwa test branch. So now when I switch to when I switch to the other branch master, so git checkout and then master, you will see that it doesn't have this thing in it to update. So when I go to git checkout master, you can see I no longer have that file here. So your change you call just qua test. So you always work on a test so that it may not affect your branch. Like you not test actually, sorry. Like you work on a branch. Don't work on the main branch. On the main branch. So first of all, let me go back to my test. So when I go to the test, you can see the code is going to be added there, which was there initially. So you can see I have that code there. So there's another thing called okay, first of all, is there a question? Najikimbiza tuna watu sina watu in the back. Are you still following? Mnaelewa ama you have a question? Let me see first of all my audience. People are still there. Any question? Mko sawa?
Yes.
Na nyinyi watu wa maajabu wanga mnaelewa tu in the first nini. Do you mean that anafundisha vizuri hadi mnaelewa tu mara moja? Ama you'll digest it later. Mnaniambia yes ya ile yako kusonga mbele. But no problem. All right. So I have this code in the test. In the test branch, and then in the main branch, it's not there. So now, if I want to now merge these changes to your branch, like to your master branch, let me first of all switch to my master. So I'm going to type git checkout and then master branch. Okay, first of all, before I continue, I think here nini imeshamaliza deploy. Like now, you can see when I refresh here, it's going to remove that that popular thing. It's going to remove that popular ilikuwa popular asset. So you can see now the seriousness on working on your main branch. When you do something, it's going to affect everything permanently. And not actually because you can always revert to the commits, but you can see it can crash the system. And there's, for example, if it's a system that many people wanaitumia alafu unafanya mchezo huko hivyo, ita cost a lot nini. Kuna kampuni zingine zitakufunga. So I have this code. Now I'm at the master, I don't have that line pale. So I want to merge now the changes that were in the master now to the branch because I've tested my code. It is fine. You have a team that have done the unit test on your code. Everything is working fine. So now you want to merge it to the main branch for deployment. So what you do is just type git merge. First of all, make sure that you are at the main branch. Ile branch ya yenye unataka ku merge the codes into it. So make sure you are in that branch. For example, your main branch. Then just type git merge, and then now you specify the branch that I want to merge into the current branch, the master branch. So you type, for example, test the branch that I want to merge it here. So when you type git merge test, then you can see now I have that code. You may notice changes. You may notice changes. Bado tu mko na hiyo nini ya kutoongea. Mko na ile nini ya kutoongea kwa nini? Because we want to do it more of a discussion than in easy lectures. It's more nini. Like sometimes I always like the engagements because there's a time. Yeah, because there's a time nimeshajipata nafundisha for almost 30 minutes in the nini. The internet was like I was out of the meeting like nilikuwa peke yangu. That's why I always like those engagement. Wange nisaidia nipatia moyo sana ya kunini. Kuendelea, if you have a question, just ask. So I've talked about the git merge. And there's something that also I want to demonstrate. For example, let's say ume make changes kwa the main branch. For example, let's say I hate repeating myself in code or something like that. Just some random things. Let's commit git add first of all. Remember, anytime you make a change, do this command git add to track it. And then git commit to save added code on index or something like that. Now I have saved in the main branch because I want to talk about something called conflicting. Sometimes you can have some conflicts in your code. So now let me clear. So now this is my master branch, and let me switch to the other branch. So git checkout. Okay, checkout should be test. Test, it doesn't have what? Huh? Okay, it should be test. Hii ni maji. Okay, sorry, nimadhani ni ile checkout. Git checkout test. So test haina nini? Haina hiyo part ya coding. I hate repeating myself a lot. And then anajaribu kufanya nini? Let me just add in a dot there at the end. Nime modify the same line. So again, let me do the git add, and then do the git git commit. So now I have modified both files. Is someone talking? So you can see I have modified both files, my master branch and also my index HTML. Not index, actually index is a file, but the test branch and the master branch, they are also like they are both have the changes. Now remember, before you merge the project, you make sure that the nini, like your current branch ndio iko latest, like it has the most changes, like the latest changes. So when you go to your master, when you switch to the master, ni vitu tu rahisi za kuandika, sijui kwa nini niko lazy kunini ku just type. So now like the master should always be behind. Like ukitaka kumerge, you make sure that now your branch ndio iko initially iko na the initial code. It has the initial code of the main branch plus the added. But then you can see in this case, we had modified now the master branch, the code there, and then also the test here got modified. So the test is not using the updated branch. So there's something called conflicts when you want to merge. So first of all, let me clear. So when I want to merge now, git merge, git merge and then that branch test. So I'm going to have here initial some conflicts. You can see inanipatia these are conflict because remember the nini inafaa ikwe the latest. Ile the other branch should be the latest so that you update it kwa this other branch. So you can see iko na dot and then like you can see this is the one that is ahead then ndio iko na issue in the test. This is the test and then this is the current branch. So this one utabidi ume modify manually. You just modified it manually ndio you work. So itakupatia nini? Let me see. Okay, let me see. So sometimes, okay, let me just do it manually so that I can demonstrate it well. First of all, let me just do it manually. So in that case, you will have to manually update nini ikwe na the current update like the other one, the other what do you call it? The other branch should have the latest code. Alafu hii master ikwe nini? Ikwe like the test imefetch from the master so that when you update the master itakuwa na conflicting issues. That's why we'll talk about, I don't know if time will allow, there's something called issues. You can create issues because you don't want something to work on a project like on a file that another person is also working, because that is a modifier a particular line and then another person is also modifying another file. So when you try to merge, it's going to have the conflict because the same file it is modified by other people. So you'll have those conflict issues. But we'll talk about the issues. But pia nimeona time imenini. Time imeenda. What do you think, guys? Should I just finish branches first? Juu sioni ni kama nini. Juu naona ni kama time. Kama you guys but you have the energy, we can continue.
Just continue.
Yes.
We continue.
Okay, we continue. All right. Thank you. But in case you miss anything, it's recording. You told me it's recording. It's recording, yeah. So in this case, you'll have to manually update. You will have to manually remember now at the moment you can't do anything. So let me first of all, in fact, let me try to switch and see. Let me see. Git switch or a checkout test. You can see I cannot even do anything. I cannot do even anything there. So unless you have done what? So first of all, let's do some. Let me see. First of all, this command git add. Yeah, so I have reverted to the initial state. So now I can do what I can now merge. Remember, I'm the master. So let me try to merge. Okay, sorry. You have not included your merge head exists here. Please commit your changes first. So nimefanya to add. Remember whenever you do the git add, make sure you do commit. Commit is to save. Add is to track a file, and then commit is now to save. Git commit. And then what else? Let me just add in. I hate typing my thing. Let me just type something in there, and then now so I can be able to merge. To merge by typing git merge then a test, and then now okay. So basically, nini iko up to date. But now I believe you have understood the nini ile aspect the conflicting issues sometimes can utapata ile issue, so you will know how you can configure that. Though we'll talk about issues later. We'll talk about issues later when we reach to the GitHub. There's a command that is called git fetch, and also we have git pull. So you always make sure that you are up to date from what is in the server, like what is in the GitHub, or maybe from the main branch, like your sub branch, other branch will be the one at the latest, so that when you push, you don't have those conflicting issues. So again, let me switch to git switch to my branch called tests. So test. Test now, I'm just click it imekuwa reset. There's something called nini. Okay, we'll talk about it tukifika kwa nini, tukifika kwa GitHub, but this command it's here, git git help. First of all, we have a command called git fetch. So fetch, it downloads the objects and these refs from another repository so that you can have it in your latest. And then we also have git pull, which is going to fetch, and then at the same time it's going to merge it to your project. Remember, you need to have the main branch to be the one which is behind. Like you need to have the current code in the main, such that when you update or modify, you are modifying the existing files which were there in the main. Yeah, so that's about the branches. So how about deleting the branches? Let's say you have merged a branch and then I don't want to use it again. So first of all, let's see list the branches, git branch. We have master, name tag, and test. So let's say you are done with the test. You want to delete the branch. So to delete a branch, you just say git what? You want to delete a branch, so you can say git branch, then a -d, and then the branch name. For example, if it was, remember, you cannot delete the branch that you are currently at. Like mtu anaenda kukata miti and then anakata miti yenye amekalia like pale juu. So you can see it work. So in this, the same case applies here. You cannot delete this branch because the current active branch. So you need to first of all go to the master, then delete. But let me try to delete this name tag. So I'm going to delete it. When I do git branch, I don't have that name tag. Let me switch to, okay, I don't want to delete this one because I'm using it to demonstrate. So that's how you delete a branch. But how about a file? Let's say you, or not a file actually. Let's say you are tracking files. Sijui kama nilikuwa nimeongelea how to untrack a file. Had I talk about on how you can untrack a file? That just by the way, remember on the branches just something else, but nimekumbuka tu, sometimes you might not want to track a file like untrack a file. Let's say you are tracking a file, but then by mistake, you just like want not to track that file. Sijui kama nimeelezea hiyo kitu, how to untrack a file. Nimeongea maneno mingi hadi nimejisahau. Can someone remind me kama nimeongelea how to untrack a file?
Yes, but unaweza rudia.
Oh, nirudie. All right. So to untrack a file, you are going to use git rm, and just to remove. That's to remove a branch actually. I'm not sure about if the remove it works, but kwa GitHub wamesema rm to remove, but it's something like a remove. And then cached. Cached, caches, cached, and then at the file name, for example, index, index dot html, index dot html. So git rm dash cached index dot html. Then you can see now it's no longer tracking this index dot html. It's no longer tracking this index.html. Then you can add it to the git ignore, and then just proceed without that file. And then let's say you wanted to untrack the files in the folder. You wanted to untrack the files. You can see at the moment in the, let me do git status first of all, you see. Status. In the git status, I have, okay, we have this index that you can track, but all right. So, so you can see in the inside, I have a file. Okay, let me modify a bit. For example, let me just add in my code somewhere. That is very sensitive konini. Okay, I've just modified that code. And then, so I don't want to track this file, the entire folder. So how do you untrack a folder? So to untrack a folder, first of all, let me clear. You are going to use the same command, but then you need to tell it that I want to do it recursively. For example, if it's a folder, by first of all specifying git rm remove, then recursively by typing -r, then at the end you specify now the folder. So the only thing that changes here is that R here so that you can do it recursively, so that you can untrack all the files in there. And that's in the specified folder, so static. So in this case, you can see now it has removed the index.html, so it's no longer tracking that file. It's no longer tracking that file. So I think that's something that I think I had forgotten. Any question up to that? On the branches, nimeongelea I think nimeongelea most aspect to create a branch, to delete a branch, and okay. By the way, sometimes you want to switch to another branch, and then to other branch, to that branch you want to switch to perhaps a particular commit. You can just say git checkout branch, then commit. For example, let's say you are sure about, the code that you had, like that ID for your commit. You just say git checkout a master, for example, the master branch, then now the commit here, the commit code, because I'm not sure about that thing. I'm not going to do that, but this one can be your assignment. Practice, like I'll go and try to do that. So this one is going to switch to the master branch, and then at a specified commit, yenye utakuwa umeipeana hapo. So that's how you can switch on the branches. So I think I've talked about the basic things. Someone ameniambia tu niendelee. So I want to talk about the the GitHub now, because we have other commands that we need to know about how to fork a repository to create issues and many other things. So before I continue, any question after this? But then remember, if you have other engagements, I'll share the recording. You're just free to leave. I want to just finish it so that the next time we talk about something else.
Nehemia, on matters of tracking,
Yes.
if I can get the code, please, I'd appreciate.
Yes.
Untracking a file. I missed that part.
Oh, yeah. So let me first of all do the Github. So if I want to track a file, remember I've just tracked all the files here, including these files here. When you do the git status first of all, git status, okay, nothing committed, but perhaps it had some changes. So let's say you want to untrack a file. For example, this is index.html. You're going to use this command called git rm for remove. Sometimes when you write remove, it might work, but I think on GitHub it is rm, but it's remove. Let me see, first of all, let me just confirm something. Let me say help. Yeah, it is rm, just rm, not remove. Just type rm, it is rm. Let me see, clear. So you just type git rm for removing, and then if it's a file, you just specify first of all the cached. Is it cached here like that? Some people usually pronounce it as caches. I'm not into in the English world. In fact, I'm forced to English, but I'm not in the English. So it is git rm dash cached, and then you specify now the file that you want to remove. So if it is index.html, then it's going to untrack this index.html file. You can see now it is telling now untracked when you hover, because we're using the git lens. Okay, let me just do git status. Git status. Now you can see index, it is untracked. But if you're using git lens, it will display here you untracked. By there, it can save you time to use this extension, because it will save a lot of time to type git status. So yeah, umeelewa how to remove a file. You just type this command.
I'm okay with it.
Yes?
Yep, I'm okay with it now, thanks.
All right, so about the folder ulielewa? Ulielewa folder? So folder,
Creating a new folder.
to remove a folder, actually, to remove a folder, like to untrack a folder, the entire folder with its content. Because
No, I think I missed the whole part.
okay, let me repeat. So when I say, for example, git static, remember the static is a folder. When I type static, it's going to throw an error because you need to define it that you want to remove but recursively. When I do like this, it's going to give me an error. So it's trying to remove, not removing, fatal. In fact, fatal. Fatal error. So you cannot remove it that way. So you need to specify that I want to remove it recursively. So you are going to say git rm, then you say okay, space R to remove the files so that you can iterate, like I can remove all the files in the inside on that, like at the folder with its content. So when I type, like I hit enter, then it's going to untrack everything within the Git. In fact, you can even make a media the video file. Let me add in another file. For example, okay, main.javascript. Yeah, so Mele, how to untrack nini? How to untrack a folder pia?
Yeah, nimeelewa. Thank you.
Yeah. So quickly, I want to talk about nini. I don't want to go through that process ya create an account ama nini, because you guys, you have social media accounts. You have TikTok, you have Twitter, you have Facebook. So the process on creating an account on GitHub is just similar. You just provide the username, password, and sijui vitu gani hapo alafu you will just create an account. So for me, I already have an account, and also for the interest of time, I don't want to go into that direction. So when you create an account, I think by default it will be in this directory here. Itakuwa kwa this directory here, dashboard. I think this should be the landing. Or either ways, you can just navigate on GitHub and see how it's going to be. Go to, for example, click on the logo, you go to the profile. So the thing that I want to tell is that you need to access the repositories. So when you are at the profile, you can still see it. But when you also at the home here, you will see the new repository here as well, new repository. So the thing here, I just want to like how to access a button to create a new repository. So I think mimi zangu zinakuanga hapa kwa napendanga kutumikiwa kwa nini kwa profile. So on the repository, you will see all the repositories you have. Kuna hapa hivi matesti ni by the mimi wanga nafundisha kwa college. That's why kuna vitu fulani hapa hivi nimeandika zile za nini za ujinga repository, but I have zile repositories on specified organizations. I have organization data I'm working, but this inakwanga tu za kufundisha. So siani nimetengeneza repository called dog test. Mwishangeni vitu gani? Yeah, so when you go to the repository, you're going to see things zenye uko nazo pale. So at the moment, because for me, I think I have this repository, it's going to have this dashboard. But for you on your end, I think if you don't have any repository, it's going to display an empty repository. So to create an account, just search for github.com. So the reason we opt for GitHub, remember we were tracking the changes on our computer, but then sometimes your hard drive can just crash. So you don't have a backup. So remember the commits in a save the backups, like a commit, it saves the backups if you want to revert to the previous state. But then in the event your entire hard disk may crash because these are files ziko kwa that hard disk, then it means that everything imeenda. You don't have a backup. Like you can use it to, for example, access those commits and stuff. So when you use GitHub is like now a cloud nini, where you can just store your files at the remote, like on the cloud, such that when you do those commits, you can still see the backup at the cloud. You can retrieve the code there. You can see, and also you can create issues. But before we sign off, make sure that you remind me I talk about the issues. So there's something that's very, very significant. For example, if you want to collaborate, there's something called issues. That's a very, very significant thing. I'll need to talk about that. So to create an account, just search for github.com, then I create an account. And once you create an account, go to the repositories, then click on the new. I think this icon, it is similar when you go to the home, it is green and it has new in it, new in it. I believe you guys will not struggle to access it. So go to profile, you can still see the profile, then repositories, and then new. When you click on the drop down here hapa juta, utaona pia new repository and other things. So either way, it's going to create a repository. So I want to quickly create a repository called niitaje portfolio, niliita portfolio what series or something. Yeah, portfolio series. So it replace na nini. Okay, let me add in now a hyphen. Okay, let me just say, okay, portfolio. In lack of a better word to use, portfolio series. And then this part is very key, guys. Especially if you have, kama unafanya client project, usai make it public unless you have the consent. Na hata kama umepewa consent, also make sure that you don't expose their sensitive information. Don't make the client's project an open source. Unless you have the permission. Na ukipata permission, make sure that you ignore some files, especially zile ziko sensitive, so that you can just use it as your portfolio. Unaona mimi my profile wanga sina nini, sina zile project za client by the because I have other platform that I can showcase like TikTok, YouTube, my website. So I'm just using this account for teaching, for teaching my students, and then nini some basic things. But for you, if you want to publish like the nini for portfolio, especially if it's a client project, don't expose it, don't make it public because it's going to be an open source and someone can easily fork the repository or maybe a clone, and then it's going to have those credentials now. Atizafanya client something that is harmful. So in that case, make sure that you're using the private. But this one is an open source, so we are using the public. Then the README file, if you want to add in the README file for documentation, you can do that. But I want to make it very simple. So I've just created a repository name. When it displays here available, it means that you can use it. But then, for example, if you use test, or let me try test, you can see test, I have it. I already have the test repository, so I cannot use it here. So when it gives you something green, just know that you are allowed to use that name, like that repository it's available. Then just click on the repository. So when you create it, utapewa link. I'm going too fast. Utapewa new link to your repository. Make sure that you're using the link that has .git at the end. Usitumie ile huku juu. Make sure unatumia ile link yenye umepewa hapo iko na .git at the end. So when you have that code, you have this link. Now you need to configure like a VS Code to access what? To access this Visual Studio Code. Now for me, what I did to make it easier, nilifanya tu sign in with the GitHub account. So when you sign in with the GitHub account, then it's going to automatically authorize this VS Code. Like a GitHub, it will authorize now VS Code to access the GitHub so that you can just push the code without any issues. Now, so once I have that, we have that repository. So now, if we want to add now that repository, remember that always your nini should be the one at the latest. Like ile yenye iko nini, it should be the one at the latest. Like you need to have first of all the ile iko live kwa GitHub, and so that when you make changes, you can push. You remember the conflicting issues. So you need to first of all add in this repository to your local environment. Remember we talked about how you can initialize an empty Git repository, but then that was on the local computer. So if you want to initialize, but then on the cloud, like to add it, no, we were using the add. Sorry about that. We were using the add. So we were able to add in now the files on the local environment. We were able to add the file by doing the git add in the local environment, and then we did the git init to initialize now repository on the local environment. But then we have just created another repository on the cloud on the GitHub account. So now to add in now that repository here, we are going to do a command here, git, not add, but you're going to say git remote. because it's a remote file or maybe repository that I want to add it here, you're going to type git remote add. Then you specify now the origin because you might have several branches. So it says origin, and then you paste that link, your repository link yenye iko na .git. Ile yenye umepewa pale nini? Ile yenye umepewa hapa juu. Usitumie ile huko juu. Tumia ile yenye umepewa hapa chini yenye iko na .git at the end. So once you have it, and then you click enter, then it's going to add that repository, the repository at the GitHub. Remember, we have the repository, we initialize an empty repository on our local environment, but then that's just a GitHub repository. It can be somehow different, but they are both repositories. But to add that repository in kwa cloud, iko sasa kwa local environment. So if you want to check the repository, you can always do git remote -v for viewing, for seeing if you have the files or the repository or not. When you say git remote -v, you can see, if you can see that you have this portfolio automating, so is the portfolio series, you will know that you have added that remote repository here. Now another file, like another thing, let's say you want to remove it. You want to remove this repository. Let's say you may realize that that repository is not good, it's not configured where you want to change the name or something like that, or in other ways you just want to remove it, that repository. You can always do git remote remove origin. Git remote remove origin, like that. So when you type that command, git remote remove origin, then when you want to confirm if it's removed, you can also do the git remote -v for viewing, seeing. Then now you can say we don't have it, so we have removed that repository. Sorry, nitaenda mbio, sijui kama mnaelewa. Am I too fast, guys? Mnaelewa kweli? Any question?
Mimi nimeelewa.
Wonderful sana. I think hiyo sauti inakaa tu ya Patricia, hata kama sijacheck. Is it Patricia? Bado nakukumbuka, is it Patricia? Hawa na mtu mwingine, sorry. Aya, so let's add it again. Add a remote repository. You do git remote add, then origin, then that repository is going to be added there. So once you have added it here, then you need now to create now the main branch. Remember here tumekuwa tunatumia the test master. We need to now create the main branch for the GitHub account. For not for what, for in the GitHub, like in that GitHub account, we need to create a main branch there. So to create a main branch, you can say git branch, and then you type hyphen capital M. Make sure you type capital M for creating the main branch, and then specify the branch name, for example, main, like that. So this command is going to create a main branch, and then at the same time it's going to switch to that branch. You know, hizo zingine tumekuwa tuna create, then I want to do it manually, git checkout, and then to switch to that branch. But then you type git branch hyphen main main, you're going to create the main branch now for the tailored for the cloud. So it's going to create, now you can see I'm at the main branch. So mostly you can either use master or main to show that that's the main branch. So we are at the main branch, so we can as well do the git add. Now we have added already the remote repository here, so we need also to add in now the current files that we have it here. So we just do the same operation, git add, then dot at the end, then git commit, and then for deployment, something like that, for deployment. And then now when I type that, I will have done what committed the change. So let me clear first. So now, now that I've done this, there's another command that is called push. push is like now to need to upload your project now to the cloud. We have just created now the repositories, how we need to upload the code there. So the push command is like you want to push the code, like you want to upload the code there. So let me do the git. Remember, you always have to, like, in case you get stuck, you can always get some some help by typing git help, so that you can see which command inafanya nini. So you can see push is to update the not push, nimekuwa naongelea nini? Push is to update the remote ref with the associated project. Ijielezea vizuri but tumia tu ile nini yangu. I think yangu iko clear, like the git push is a command now to upload your local files or maybe local repository now to the cloud, or maybe the local project files now to the cloud. So we are going to type here git push, but we cannot just type git push like that, because we have other branches, because we might have several branches in the cloud. So when you type git push like that, it's not going to work. But there's a way where you can customize such that when you type git push, it will work. We'll set the upstream later. In fact, let me just do it now. Okay, clear. So you can just say git push, and I want to set the upstream so that in future we'll just say git push without adding anything at the end. So I just say u or upstream. For me, I like working in the shortcut. So git push hyphen u, and then because now we can have several branches in the cloud, so you need to specify now the branch where you want to push it. So you can specify origin, then because we created the main branch called main, so you can just use that main branch so that you can push on that branch. So now when you go to the cloud now, then I refresh, you'll be able to see the code there. So you go uploaded live. Any question after that? All right. So basically, there's other thing that I could have talked in detail, but let's say, because I talked about on how you make sure that the one live or maybe your main branch should be always at the latest. Like your other branch where you're working should be ahead of your main branch. So let's say you have modified now this branch. Let's say tumesema I hate, okay, let me just modify here hapo. Let's assume mtu amepush, mtu mwingine amepush. I hate repeating myself so much. Let me just commit. So now, because I have modified this file, and then let me go to my code, and then I try to modify index.html. Let me say dot. I hate repeating myself very much. Very much. Again, let me do git add. It's just a simple command, but I'll have to do to go there. And then let me commit for deployment. So now, remember we have set the upstream. We have set the upstream, so we can just, when you do the git push will now work because we had set the upstream, so that when you just type git push is going to work. But now at the moment, it cannot work because we have the file iko ahead. So mnakumbuka those conflicts, like ile ingine iko ahead. So like to avoid these issues, you always want to first of all fetch the changes there, to fetch the changes yenye iko kwa GitHub, like changes zenye zimefanyika huko, and then before you push it here. So now when I do git pull, you need to do a git pull. First of all, git pull. Remember, I'm using pull and push without anything at the end, because I have the nini, what do we call it? Like I had set the upstream. So now when I do this, it's going to work better because there's some conflicting issues. Like at the same line, it is modified, like it has issues. Like we have modified the same file, and also the one that is live, it's also modified. So we need to fix that. So first of all, git add, and then first of all, let me okay, git add, and then git commit. Okay. git commit, and then so in this case, let me first of all, and then okay, let me first of all try git push. Actually, it's not going to work. Oh yeah, it has worked first of all. None of those are conflicting issues. So in case you have something like that, a good approach is to first of all, let me modify already to make sure find those changes. This is how I could delete this part, but let me just modify. Git is good for version control, and then let me commit. So in case you have made some changes, so before you push your code, make sure that you first of all pull the changes there. There's a command called, let's again go to our helper command, git help. There's a command called git pull. So git pull fetches from the fetches and then integrates to another repository, like in a fetch changes in zilikuwa cloud, and then at the same time it's going to like merge the changes to your current project. So now, if you don't want to get those conflicting issues, what you do is just first of all type git pull. Remember, I'm not specifying now the branch because I had set it up. Otherwise, you'll have to say git pull origin and then I specify the branch name. Origin, then, for example, main. But because for me, I had set it up when I just type git pull, it's going to work. So it's going to pull first of all the changes there. So you can see I have added here, this is a version control tool, it's added here. So now once you have added, then when you modify a bit, and then you try to add, and then push it to work without any issues. Add, and then deployment, then push, git push. Git push is going to work quickly, like very well. Any question on that? Before I talk about forking a repository, in fact, I just want to struggle nimalize nini zote. Ishafika saa moja nimeongea for 2 hours. But juu tumetoka mbali, acha tu nimalizie. Any question up to that? Bado mnaelewa? Hello? Are you still there?
Yes.
All right. So
Yes, still here.
okay, thank you. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. So sometimes let's say you are working like at the moment soon, we'll be working on the project tutakuwa tuna collaborate on a particular project. So you need to first of all have the version of that project on your repository such that when you make changes, you feel that iko sawa, you might want to contribute. We'll talk about the pull request in a few, but then there's something called forking a repository. To fork a repository, just another word for copy. At the moment, niko tu na my current branch, but assuming that you have a branch called, let's say you have, like for example, for you might want, let's say I might initialize a repository, yenye tutawak wote pamoja, and then you want to have that version of the repository so that you can work on it. Once you feel like it is good, you can do a pull request, and then we can merge it to our main branch. So to fork a repository, or maybe to copy a repository, the current, like for example, if you want to copy this portfolio series repository, you want to fork it on your account, you just click on the fork. This icon up, utenda. Okay, let me first of all, I'm here. Okay, let me first of all go to my profile, assume that this is my repositories I have. I can go to the repositories, and then you see this repository somewhere. Then I'll click on it. When you click on it, you will see something called a fork here or anywhere. I don't know the display on your end, how it will be, but then just find something called a fork. When you click on it, it means that you want to fork that project to your to be yours to make that project to be yours. But remember, the moment, because I'm the owner of the repository, but luckily I have other niko na other organizations here, so I can choose any branch, any organization here. For example, let me just use, for example, Reddit. So I want to copy this repository, which is at the name tech, I want to fork it to the Reddit. Perhaps on your end, you could want, let's say you will be forking a repository from Nametech, and then I want to fork it to your repository, your personal repository. But remember, for me, because it is my own repository, so I've just used a different organization. But for you, you will use what? Your current account, your personal account or something like that. So I'm just selected another repository called the Reddit app, and then not a repository, but an account organization, Reddit app. And then when I click on fork, then it's going to like copy everything from the Reddit, like from the Nametech to this Reddit. So you can see now in the Reddit, I have this code. I have the same code repository. Let me see. You can see now, initially we were here. Let me see. This is my personal account where we have the portfolio series. But then I have something called the organization. We have organizations. In fact, when we will begin working on projects, we'll create an organization where we will add everyone, then I will be collaborating together. So at the moment, I have these organizations here, and I had forked it on the Reddit app. So I have the entire code which was there at the let me see. Symbolic, it's not clickable. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so I have this portfolio series. Hata nilidemonstrate kwa wanafunzi wengine using the same account, but dog, I'll delete it. I'll delete it. So I have this account like this repository, and also the branch is main. Imecopy mpaka branch, it is a main branch. Everything from the other repository may copy in this other, but on your end it could be, for example, your account, you want to fork it from, like I want to copy the code from Nametech or any other person, I want to fork it to be your repository. Now, there's another command called a git clone, but now with the git clone, it's just you're copying the code to your account, but you can't like push it, like you can't do anything. But then when you fork it, you're going to personalize now the project such that you can make the changes to your code, like you can do pull requests in something like that. So at the moment, I have this repository. Remember, we need a change. What? Okay, just a second. My data kidogo tu dakika moja. Just a second.
Now, Nehemiah,
Hello, yes.
nauza Starlink.
Hebu kidogo ni switch net. Sio ni nini, ni simu imepotea. Unajua tulikuwa na Starlink, hata nini ikipotea haitakusaidia. Jina natumia, I think natumia pia nini? Simu. Hello? Mnanisikia bado? Am I still there? Hello, bado mnanisikia?
Bado tunakusikia Nehemiah.
Yes, tunakusikia.
Oh, okay. Sorry, actually nini internet nini nitajista. Kwa Kenya ni shida tu. Nasema inapotea tena. Sometimes you are in a thing unasikia tu imepotea. All right. So, I was talking about the fork in you cannot mnaona screen. But in a display screen. Is it showing the screen still when your internet ama ime disconnect nini? My screen.
It's still showing.
Okay, thank you. All right, so there's another thing. Okay, there's something called I was talking about the fucking repository. Let me just Alex. Let me just create a folder called Alex, and then there's another command called a clone, but I'll talk about it later. But now I want to copy, like to open this project on the VS Code. This is just a new folder, so let me just type cmd code. Hata sioni. And then I want to use, because this one is universal, because I believe we have other people in wanatumia Mac, wengine Linux, but now Git bash is universal command line. So now, because we've created that project, that repository, we have forked, like still already. Thank God. So we have the nini, to fork. We have made a copy of that repository now to to this account. Perhaps it could be your personal account or something. But because for me, I had it was at the moment it was just on my account, so I just switch to another organization, but on the same account. But yours could be, for example, you want to fork it from someone else to be your personal project, so that you can add the changes and then push it. Like let's say you want to contribute, but this is how it usually happens. Let's say kuna pandas package, you want to contribute on that project, on the pandas package. So what you will do, you first of all fork that repository, and then you add in what you feel like would have improved that package. Then once you do that, then you are going to do a pull request. So when you do a pull request, it's going to notify the owner of the account data. Someone is trying to want to make a change, then they will review the changes and something like that. Then they will merge it to the project, and they will see that there's another release and iko na vitu fulani na fulani zimefanyika. We are going to demonstrate that one in a few. So I have this forked repository called from the Write app. So you just copy the link. We do the same operation that we did earlier. You just say git. Okay, first of all, you need to initialize a git repository, normally git init, so that you may have git in this directory here. So git init, once you do the git init, then you can do git okay. All right, so I think it is easier instead of these operations, you could have done that. Do git clone. But then once you have forked the repository, so if you want to have those codes now on your system, you need to use another command, git clone. Git clone, do git clone. Clone is like to copy, just as the name suggests. Clone is just to copy something. So git clone, then repository, git clone, then the repository that I want to clone. Then it's going to clone, and then it's going to, can see now we have this portfolio series. But then sometimes you don't want to create it another folder and then say, like, I want it to be at the root. If you want it to be at the root, you remember the command that we usually use. So sijui mbona in take long to delete. I think ningetumia tu the other nini ku delete, inakuanga much faster. All right, so let me just get a new one. Okay, let me just get a new one. For example, ALX2 in lack of, I'm not that creative on names. ALX2. And then in this ALX2, I want to open VS Code here. Then on this VS Code, I want to open my embedded terminal. I can go to Bash, but then I'm using the shortcut Control-Shift backtick to open the terminal. And then now here, I can do git clone. Remember initially when you just do git clone, or clone like that, and then I just paste, it's going to create another folder. So if you do not want to create another folder in the inside, you add in the period at the end so that you are telling it that I want to clone, but add the files at the root. Remember this dot always signify the root or maybe the current directory. So when you do that, it's going to create those files here. So now when you have these files here, so let's say you modify index.html, let's say you want to remove this stuff here. Let me just remove it. So once you do that, you do the same operation. Remember, when you clone it, it's going to come with the git, so you don't need to initialize. It's going to come with everything, including the commits and all that. So I want to just do git init, git add, because we made the changes here, git add. Then I add everything. Then I git commit.
Eh?
Yes.
Labda nimekaa chini sana.
Si nimejikaza pia basi. Kama hadi nyinyi mnakaa mnachoka na mimi mwenye naongea na nimekaa pia nimechoka sana. But let me just finish because I don't want to come to this thing. In fact, this should be the last thing last time nafundisha nini Git and GitHub. So that's why I'm going into details. So git commit, then let's say removed some files, some code. I removed some code. And then now I can now do the git push. Remember, first of all, do git, okay, let me do a quiz here, a Q&A. So who can tell me the command yenye naweza nikatumia ku view the repositories that I have? The remote repositories, repository that I have in the system. Which command can I use? Ama hiyo mkuelewa? Sawa tu. So just say git. Yes, nataka kujaribu. Is there someone?
Yeah, I can try.
Yes.
Git remote then it's -- v.
Or V, or like that. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. So this is what we have here. We are using now. We are using the Reddit. So this is the current one, the one that we are using. This is the origin that we are using. So what we do, let's just first of all clear. So let's say git push. Remember, we have done already the commit, so you can say git push. Let's now set a new upstream so that because we're working on with a different branch and a different repository. So git push, and then you set the upstream. Origin should be main still. This is a main origin. Now you have always to specify the origin because you might have several branches. You have other people are working on something else, so you need to specify the origin so that so main. Now, when you do this, then it's going to push, but it's going to push now on. You can see now it's not name tag, it is write it up. So now when I go to my write it up, okay, where up. So when I go to the write it up, then I refresh, you can see it's going to update and it and patia my notification up. So you can see I removed some code. Here committing to make up size. I removed some code, let's see. You can say ina nini iko cleaned. So now, okay, first of all, is there a question after that? Mko sawa, si ndio? Yeah, so let me assume that the silence means you're okay, though you'll find the recording in case you are stuck. So now, let's say you may make change, but you want to contribute to a particular project. Assume that you are added. Remember this one we were removing, but on the end it could be you want to add something, and then you want to contribute to a particular project. See, remember the initial nini, it was name tag. The initial, the original, or maybe the one of the repository, it was name tag. this guy amefanya nini, amefork to the repository, amecopy the repository, but the owner of the account is name tag. Let's say you are just a person who want to contribute on that project. So what you're going to do, you're going to do something called a pull request. It's not a Git command, but it's a GitHub function or something like that called a pull request. You can see it's here. When you just click on this pull request, and then it's going to automatically detect. Okay, sorry. Oh yeah, so on the pull request, you click on the pull request, you're going to click here, new pull request. Now, if you had cloned this project from someone else, it automatically detect the owner. You can see base repository, it is name tag, portfolio series, branch in main, and the yours, it is the head, like at the current branch it is read it up, and then it's still portfolio series, and then the branch is still main. So you want to contribute now to the name tag. So you're going to create what we call a pull request. Remember here at the bottom itakuonyesha what was removed or what was added. So for example, you are contributing, it will display like you are trying to add what. So it's going to show you that. And once you feel like everything is okay, then you can create a pull request. When you click on the create a pull request, for example, you can be descriptive. Let's say in this code, let me just try to be professional now. Let me say in this version, I have a cleaned HTML file. Then okay, this is the title. Should be a title. In fact, it should be a title. But let me just copy. I said I should be professional, but let me just copy that. So unaweza ukaweka something descriptive so that the owner ataelewa ni shida gani ilikuwa hapo hivyo, alafu umefanya nini, umefix aje ama unataka tu ku-add nini. So when you click on the create a pull request, it's going to notify the owner of the account who is name tag. The owner on account, unaona mimi ishani redirect kwa name tag because I'm the owner, but on your end it could direct, like it notify the original owner of the repository that there's a guy anataka kucontribute, alafu itampatia some title and then add the description. For example, this guy wants to contribute ama ameclean the HTML file. So kutakuwa na people wenye watareview kwa kwanza code, because sometimes someone can be contributing to your project but an embedder a malware. So as soon as, especially if it's a production file, so let's say someone embed a malware, then you just merge without confirming things, then it's going to corrupt. Like I can see if you've implemented the DevOps, umelink hiyo project ama venye mimi uanga nafanya project zangu, nimelink na GitHub such that when I push it on the main branch, it's going to automatically populate on the server, on the project live. So it's going to update there. So assuming that you want to push it to your main project, then someone embed a malware, then it's going to corrupt your entire system. So you'll have a team that is going to review the code. Unaona kuna commit hapa. Let's first of all see, utaona kuna part yenye uta review code vizuri. So for example, kuna nini uta make a comment. For example, wewe utaweza muandikia wewe ni mkora sana, nataka kuembed a malware somewhere. Like you can just add in a comment somewhere, for example, in the code. For example, try to fix this one before we merge it or anything like that. So once you done the review, okay, let me just narudi aje. Okay, I'm back. So you can click on that commit and then view the code in nataka kufanya. So once you feel like everything is good, then you do what we call the merge. You merge now the pull request. Someone wanted to contribute. You've tested everything that he or she wants to contribute is valid. Then what you do now, you click on the merge pull request. So when you merge it, it's going to update in the current repository. So even the watu wanga na nini wana collaborate. You can see when a project is open source, like for example, Linux is an open source nini. So for example, mtu anataka ku contribute there, so they will do those vitu zenye tumefanya. They first of all fork it, then they do what they update, and then once they update, they do a pull request. So once they do a pull request, we will have a team there who are going to review. Remember, kuna hiyo part ya kunini mtu anaweza pitia, for example, kama hii code, okay, we have Nigeria, sorry. So let's say we have a code somewhere which is not good. Let me say, you can add in a comment. You can see when you have it's going to show a plus. So you can add in a comment, for example, let's say, please, what does this line do? And then start a review. And then you can do it. You can click a review. You can click a review, for example, or something else here, blah, 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 submit a review. And then it's going to see like people watenda waone mtu ameweka wapi on a particular line. Ameuliza what does this line to nini. So akiona vitu ziko sawa, then they can resolve the issue and then watafanya nini, wata merge the code na such things. So I'm not going into details on the same. First of all, is there a question on that? Before I talk about now the last thing, creating issues. I think once I cover issues, you will have understood the basics. Remember, hizi vitu zote zenye nimewapatia ni basics. Git is very, very deeper. You will need to do a research on your own, but I'm giving you like what is very, very basics, such that you can do something with this basic knowledge. First of all, is there a question up to where we are? If I go now to the last thing. So if there's no question, now I want to talk about issues because you realized earlier we were trying to do something, alafu you realized that you had something called some conflicts. When you want to push the code, you will have some conflicts. Like for example, let's say you are a boss, you are a project manager, or maybe you are the chief, or maybe senior, wanajiita just the senior software engineer or a senior data scientist. Then you have the junior scientist behind you. So you want to assign role to people because when they work on the same file, it's going to have what? It's going to have issues when you want to merge the project, when you want to merge the project. So you'll have those issues. So what usually happen, let's say you are a developer or maybe you are the project manager. I'm not sure if that's the correct term to use, but let's say you are the owner of or maybe you are the senior software engineer. Then you want to assign roles to other people. For example, this guy work on the navigation bar, you work on the nav bar, you work on the something else. So what will happen? You'll create a repository. You'll create a repository. Then you are going to assign you are going to assign issue. You are going to create issues. When you create issues, you click on this tab icon here. I think it will, let me see, go to the profile, then go to the repository, then there's something called issues. When you open it, issues tab, just click on it, then you create a new issue. But this one is just on my personal profile. Let me try to create a new organization. Let me try to create an organization so that we can add in several people and assign them issues. Like I give them issues. Let me see if I can be able, new organization. So let me create a new organization. Just want to use this one, ile abore okay. The free organization. Perhaps you can use this one. For example, let's call it ALX. Okay, because we might have other people who are not from ALX. Let's say just a portfolio series. Then perhaps you can add in the email, and then you can say this is a business or an institution. Then you can say, for example, this is ALX, or let me say, let's say study group. Yeah, study group is a good name. Study group, and then I just do what you'll have to verify to tell this that you're not a robot. So you need to, not sure if it does the correct, Nice, good, passed. Then are you? So click here, Copilot, it will charge you some $19, so don't check it. So click here, hereby accept. Then it's going to create here an organization. So when it creates an organization, you can add in people to that organization. You will send me the email if you want to. In future, when you will want to contribute, I think we have someone called Linda. Linda, Linda. Okay, I don't know if okay. Nani? Nitumie nani?
Yes.
Nipatie username yako nijaribu kukuadd. Can I add
Ya
you?
GitHub.
Yeah, GitHub, your username.
Sumbati 10.
Okay, Sumbati 10.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're going to do it. Let's first of all complete. You can add in as many as you want. Then let's just verify that. And then so we have just created but there I could have used a proper name. We've just created an organization called portfolio series. So you might have a repository. These are portfolio series. An organization. Remember, this portfolio series is an organization, but there I could have used portfolio study. Study group is the name. Then nini ipate portfolio series, but don't worry about that. So let me just say, for example, test. These are new organization. This is not name tag. Let's make it public. So now when you create an issue, you have an organization or member, you have added people. Sorry, I'm using Swahili most of the time because English is not my thing. I'm just struggling to talk in English. So you have a repository and then you want to add people to contribute. So you just click on the issues and then you can create a new issue. And then let's say a title, for example, navbar. I have a background on the software engineering. That's why I'm into it most of the time. But in the future, I'll be using data science things. Then let's say here is my nav. Okay, let's say Linda work on navbar. And then you need to do it. You need to assign. You need to, okay, not yourself, but let me just assign it to yourself, but I could have assigned it to someone else. Let me just assign it to myself at the moment because Linda has not confirmed. So she needs to confirm first of all so that she'll be available here. So once you have the list of people available in that organization, you can assign them the issues. So for example, where you personally work on the navigation bar, then you click on submit new issue. So so if it were Linda, she will see the issue. So they are going to do it. They are going to work on it. Like so that you need to always do this because, for example, let's say several people are working on the same thing. File, you will see that you will get the conflicts. So you assign people so that they may not have those conflicts. So that when you merge, it won't have any issue. So guys, basically these are the basics on the Git and GitHub. I don't want to go into details. Kuna other things which are much deeper. I don't want to confuse people or maybe see Git it's hard. So first of all, up to this, is there a question? Any question? Because I feel like I'm done. I've talked for around 3 hours. Is it 3 hours? From 5? Non-stop. Any question? Because it seems like I'm done on the basics or maybe on the most important commands. Basics, yeah. But then for me, what I usually hate kabisa is people failing to talk. When the people fail to talk, I usually hate it kabisa. If umeelewa, you say you've understood. If you have not understood, you say you have
Nehemiah,
not understood. Yes.
Nehemiah, that was a nice session, and we thank you for taking us through that one.
Thank you. Thank you also. Thank you for attending. And what I'll urge you guys in the future, let's make it more nini. yeah. Any other question? Mtu ako na swali? Okay, let me, should I stop recording first? Is there something that you'll want to ask yenye itasaidia watu before I stop the recording? All right, so let me stop the recording. Yeah, so guys, finally I'm done. I'm done. It has been